Cash versus card. Which one helps you save more? In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with using cash versus using the card and which one helps me save more. It's kind of like, it's crazy because I always embraced the debit card before the debit cards came about in my life. You know, I always thought highly on walking around with a pocket full of cash. You know, I always looked at the people in the hood, like who had the big bankrolls, the things that look like this, and it was all about cash. So all I cared about was cash. You know what I mean? And when I thought about saving money, things became a little different. Like I always thought that me having a debit card was the way. Once I got older and I started getting a bank account and I didn't have to have a bunch of cash on me and I started storing it in the savings and the checking, you know, I always thought that the debit card was the new way of life when it came to dealing with money. You feel me? So which one is best as far as saving money, cash versus the card? I'm here to tell you, I know a lot of you guys are great with money. A lot of you guys are great with saving, with budgeting, with finances. And there's a lot of people that are not as great with those type of things. And I was one of those people, and I still am one of those people. I'm still working on bettering myself. So I'm making this video for anybody who is looking for, you know, an opportunity to better themselves. Maybe you could hear my story and it might help you out. So here's the question. Which is better for saving money, cash versus card? Personally, I find that cash is better. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that cash is better is because you got to think about it like this. And I'm not saying that everybody is like me, but I'm like me. This is what I've experienced. When you got a card, when you have a debit card, if you're not the type of person to check your bank account like religiously and keep looking at your money, you pick up your phone, like if you're not the type of person to check your balance of your checking account every time you make a purchase, then what you're doing is you're blindly swiping your card. Everything that you need. Let's just say you got paid today. Okay. Let's just say your paycheck is $2,500. All right. And let's just say you paid your rent or your mortgage with your last paycheck. So in your mind, you're kind of like thinking that I got some money in my account. This is if you're living check to check, like most people. But if you're, you know, and it's even worse for people that are not living check to check, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I was at a point in my life where I was doing so well that I forgot when payday was. I would have to ask someone on the job, do we get paid today? Or do we get paid this Friday? And I'm here to tell you that when you encounter someone who doesn't remember when payday is, you have to automatically understand that this person is doing really well in their life. Because a person that's not doing that great in their life and that's struggling and striving, they know exactly when payday is. They know exactly how much their check is going to be. And they're waiting on it and they're depending on it. But I was once at a point in my life where I kind of forgot when I get paid. The money's coming in so much, so often that I forget when payday is on my job. So I have to ask a coworker. I'm not at that point right now. And I'm striving to get back to that point where I don't remember when I got paid. But let's talk about the topic. Which is better for saving money, cash or card? I find that cash is better because with the card, like I was saying, as long as you know that you got money, you're going to swipe your card for whatever you want. If you go in the store and you need a soda, you swipe. You're barely looking at the price of the soda. You know whatever that soda cost, you got it. You know you got it because it can't cost more than what, $2, more than $2, and that's high for a soda. So you know you got that. So whatever you want, you get. You want a pack of cigarettes. You know your cigarettes probably cost $7 or $8. You swipe. You go to a restaurant because you're hungry, a fast food restaurant. You're in a drive-through. Your meal comes up to $12. You swipe. Now, mind you, you probably swiped your card 6 or 7 times within the last 8 hours, and you're not paying attention to how much you actually spent, because you know you got it. You're not worried about that little $12 in the drive-through, that little $8 for the cigarettes, You're not worried about those little items, that little $2 for the soda. You're not worried about that. You just swipe. If you want to do a favor for somebody's with you. You hungry? You want a sandwich? Yeah, let me get a number 3 as well. Your total came up to $23 and you heard the person tell you $23, but it's not in your memory bank. All you know is I got it. It's in my checking account. I got paid today. Swipe. And then at the end of the day, you might look at your checking account. Like before you go to sleep, you plan in your phone, you look at your checking account, see how much money you got. Or a lot of people don't even do it that day. They might do it 3 days later. They're just swiping. Everything you need, just swipe, 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 swipe. And you're not calculating, you're not subtracting what you spent from your balance that you had, because you just have the comfort of knowing that I worked a lot of hours within the last 2 weeks. My check looked real nice. I'm going to get what I want out here. So I don't think that's a good method as far as saving money. I think that cash is better. What I've learned is the best way when you get paid, let's say, again, your check is $2,500. I think the best way is to calculate what you need for the next week, what your spending money is. You calculate your gas. You calculate your habits, cigarettes, whatever. You calculate if you want to go out this weekend to dinner or whatever. You calculate that. You calculate miscellaneous things. Just come up with an amount that you're going to need, a budget that you're going to need until you get paid again. You withdraw that from the ATM. You keep that significant amount of money in your wallet and you live off of it. I think it's better that way than to just be swiping your card, because that way, when you pull the yapper out of your pocket, you know exactly how much you started with, and you can see it as it decreases. Every time you spend money, your yapper that's physically in your hand is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can see it. The fact that you can physically see it, it gives you power. It gives you wisdom. It enables you to make different decisions. You might say, hold on, I took $500 out to last me for 2 weeks. It's only been 4 days and I'm already down to $250. I need to slow down. Because the money that you're using is in your hand. You can see it, you can touch it. So when you buy something, you might be in the car and you're running through the rest. You're seeing what else you got. And when you see that you started with 500 and now you only have $250, you automatically know that you're moving too fast. It's time to make some sacrifices. If you need this money to stretch, it's time to slow it down. Now you're going to be able to show some discipline. You're going to show some discipline now because you need the rest of that 250 to stretch all the way until you get paid again. Otherwise, you're going to be withdrawing some more funds from your checking or your saving. And that's defeating the purpose of trying to make a budget. And the only reason that you're making a budget is because you're trying to save money. And that's defeating the purpose of saving money. It's harder when you use your debit card, because with your debit card, you're not really conscious. And I'm talking about what I think the majority is. There's some people out there that say, oh no, you wrong, Lebs. You wrong. I write down everything I spend and I calculate everything that I spend and I subtract it from my balance and I keep up with where my budget is and where my balance is. I keep up with all of that. But I'm just telling you about me. I don't keep up with none of that. If I feel like I'm up, I feel like the Fat Joe song. Nothing could stop me. I'm all the way up. Everything I want, I swipe, 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 swipe. And before you know it, I'll be like, golly, you mean to tell me I spent $300 on this? I spent $90 on this? And then my other conscious mind is saying, yeah, you did. You wanted that. You was enjoying the moment. You was outside. It was people out there. Y'all was doing things. You wasn't conscious on your balance or how much you're spending. You're having a good time and you want to keep that good time going. So what you did is you just swiped. Your homeboy, he was a little short on cash. He needed $30. You cashed it to him with no problem. But you forgot about that, see? When you came to bed that night and you start looking in your phone, you were shocked at how fast your money is going away. It's because you weren't paying attention. You weren't paying attention. You're just swiping, 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 swiping. That's why I say that cash is way better than card. Take a certain amount of cash out, keep it in your pocket. If you're either going to have discipline or you're not going to have discipline. Just because you take cash out don't mean it's going to work for you. If you don't have discipline, then you're going to blow through that cash as well. And then you're going to go get some more cash and you're going to be in the same situation that you were in with the card. It doesn't really matter. But I think that it's easier if you can see the money and touch the money and count the money in your hand, as opposed to remembering what you spent and writing everything down. So that's my take on it, man. Quick video, just something to think about, something to stay conscious about. And I hope everybody out there is doing really well with budgeting their money, because finances is very important in life. It's not about how much money you make. It's what are you doing with the money that you make. And if you just blowing the money and you're not counting the money and keeping track of the money, then the money is not working for you. You're just working for the money. I'll see you on the next video. Peace. I do this.